Okay. We live. Let's see. Are we live? Are we live? Are we live? Yes, we are. Oh. All right. All right, y'all. Y'all know the deal. Back at it again, man. Back at it again. Let me move this. Let's start live on the Instagram for the people. Back at it again. What's up, y'all? We back at it again. Back at it again for another Sunday Takeaways with Tay. Ooh. Effective communication. We're gonna call this the art of communication. That's what we're talking about today. The art of communication. The art of communication. Send. Pin that. Hi, Kamlin. All right. So, guys, today we're talking about communication. Communication. First of all, happy Sunday to everyone. You know, gotta give the greetings. Hope everyone is doing well this Sunday. And yeah, let's get into it. I like to jump right into things like this because why not? So our book this week is coming from the author Bento Leal the Third, and the title is called Four Essential Keys to Effective Communication. This topic is especially important, I think, because let me get this right. This topic is really important because last week we were talking about relationships, and we were talking about all the things that can help cultivate a healthy relationship and things like that. And so this particular topic, communication, was on my mind because I feel like a great relationship revolves around great communication. And there's so many ways we can go with this. For people who are like tuned in, they might be thinking like, oh, communication is just a skill that I've mastered. You might think you're like a grown adult and you don't have any need to improve the skill of communicating, and that's fine. But also, I think that there's more. We can always keep striving to become better communicators. And also, I want to start with a quote from the book that says, it's a universal truth that relationships affect our lives immensely. And with that, it's like, that's like, we're going to start this with just that understanding that relationships affect our lives immensely. And with that, there's an understanding that, in order to maintain healthy relationships, you have to have great communication skills, because we have to be able to talk about what it is that we're experiencing in this life. We have to be able to listen. And so let's get into the first takeaway. First takeaway is that successful communication is based on empathy. Now, I really, really liked how the author basically started the book with this notion, because it's like, when you break down communication like to its core and think about what it is, it's like a feedback loop between you and something else. And notice how I said something else, because it's not always necessarily a person. It could be a song, or it could be a show, it could be something other than a person. But basically, it's a feedback loop. And this loop requires two parties that are at least involved. Somebody who is communicating, and then someone who is listening. And you can't have effective communication without that loop of listening, putting out input, output, essentially. And I think it's important to understand that, because we have to be able to empathize with the person that we're communicating with in order to connect. And that's the part where communication becomes challenging, is because oftentimes we're unable to connect with the person on the other end, because we don't have that empathy, that skill of empathy, where we understand that person enough, or we're listening to that person enough, or we're just simply just putting ourselves in their shoes long enough to be able to have a conversation with them or to relay information to them. And when you think about a lot of different dynamics in the world that exist, such as let's just talk about the media, for example. We have certain news channels that know that their audience are older, let's just throw it out there, older white audiences that might think a certain way. And so when they're crafting a service or a show or whatever, they're going to craft it in a way that basically allows for them to communicate what it is that they're trying to say effectively, because they're trying to grasp that particular audience. So successful communication is based on empathy. You have to be able to understand a person, understand where they're coming from, understand their story long enough for you to be able to talk to them. And like I said, empathy requires you to the ability to walk a mile in someone else's shoes. So you have to put your thoughts to the side. You have to put your emotions and things like that to the side so that you can listen long enough to the other person. And what's up, JC? How you doing this Sunday? I wanted to talk about ghosting, because our generation does this a lot, and there's something wrong. Like, let me just say it. There's something wrong, because it's not okay to ghost people. You know, I don't know when that became a thing. I don't know if this happened in other generations previously, and maybe we just have a term for it now. But it happens a lot, and it's very sad. It's very wrong, in my opinion, because you essentially don't care enough about the other person to, like, the person that's doing the ghosting, you don't care enough about the other person who's receiving that treatment, because you just decided to, do whatever, like, just act like they don't exist or whatever the case may be. And there's so many underlying factors for why people ghost others. I don't think that there's ever a reason for someone to ghost someone unless there's, like, their lives are in danger, or I'm trying to think, like, unless your life is in danger, or you just, I don't know. I really have to give that one some more thought, but I don't think ghosting is appropriate. I don't think it's mature. I don't think that if you feel like you have to ghost someone, then, maybe rethink why you were in a relationship to begin with, or why you're talking to that person to begin with. But nevertheless, back to the communication thing and just having empathy. There's a lot going on right now with the Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, and there's like this. I don't know if anybody's paying attention to, like, the WNBA, but I am. And particularly, there's this story that Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese essentially don't like each other, and that Caitlin Clark is getting all the attention and Angel Reese is not. So essentially, there's this narrative that is going out about these two individuals, and this goes back to communication, because unless you've had a conversation with Angel Reese or Caitlin Clark, you really don't have a merit. You're not justified in this narrative that you're projecting and that other people are buying into, because you haven't had a direct conversation with them. So how do you know what's going on? Like, how do you know how Angel Reese or Caitlin Clark feel about one another? And I think as intakers of this media form, we have to be a little bit more intelligent about the narratives that are told to us, and we have to be a little bit more skeptical and, understand that people have a story, and sometimes that story they're already looking for a particular audience that they know is going to feed into this story. And it just goes back to communicating. If you if you really want to understand someone, if we really want to understand Caitlin Clark and Andrew Reese and where they're coming from, we need to give them space and time to tell their side of the story, rather than just going off of what someone else said. And then now we're painting this picture of these two individuals that may or may not be true, but all we had to do is just tune out the false narratives long enough to give these two individuals a chance to tell their own story. I find communication extremely interesting because if you don't tell your story, someone else is going to tell it for you. And whether you like it or not. And that's the thing about living in this world, is that like it's unfortunate, because it's like some people don't have the means to tell their story, or they don't have the right words to say, or whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, it's like people will have an idea of who you are because they don't know you, because of the story that someone else told them about you. And this can go back. We can go as far back and as far deep as just as simple as being Black in America. People have this narrative of African Americans, and whether or not it's true, it doesn't matter, because unless I'm an African American and I have the opportunity to tell my own story and write my own book, people are going to they're going to have that narrative in their head, and those stereotypes that they're going to hold people like me and people of color to, because this is the story that has been communicated to them. And they never empathize long enough to even ask a Black person or ask someone an African American themselves if this is true, or like not even if this is true, but just had a conversation long enough to be able to see for themselves. And I think that's the part where intelligence comes in, is you just can't listen to everything that everybody says. And like I said, it's communication. It's an interesting thing to me, because there's a lot of things that get said that aren't true, and there's a lot of things that don't get said that are really true and that are really important and that need to be said, but they oftentimes don't get said. But also the foundation of successful communication. So the book talks about the foundation of successful communication is in valuing others. So it goes back to the empathy thing and being able to see a person as unique. Being able to look at them and say, I might not necessarily agree with everything that they're saying or everything that they do, but at the end of the day, this person is a person. They're unique, and their uniqueness matters. And that's like the foundation when we're having conversations, when we're talking to people, or when we're creating things for others to receive, presentations, projects, advertisements. We have to keep that in mind, is that the person that's perceiving this, or the person that I'm listening to, or whatever the case may be, is unique. And simply they're unique just because they're here. God made them. That's how they are. We can't change like that. It's not changing. Like, that's something that we don't have control over. And it's like people kind of like push people to the side, and they feel like their voice doesn't matter because they don't see value in them. And oftentimes, people of color, we get pushed to the side. We're looked at as like entertainment, but when it comes to us building our communities and things like that, like, people don't want to hear any of that because it's not important to them. And I don't want to get too political, but just speaking from my opinion. And also, if you don't like the person that you're communicating with, you can still effectively communicate, because you can just listen to learn something. So everybody that we talk to, there's something that we can learn from them. And you don't necessarily have to like a person to learn something from them. When we can take our emotions out of communication and be just straight up, like, take the emotions out of it. Listen to what the other person is saying and see what you can gain from it, learn from it, and take those bits and pieces and carry it with you when you're going about your day-to-day whatever. that's the piece that is powerful, and that I think will get people far, because it's like, just because you don't like somebody doesn't mean you can't get something from them. You can't get information from them, or you can't be able to benefit from things that they say or do. So sometimes we got to get out of our own way, and just, you might not like the person, but they might be speaking some facts, and you just want to, take them the facts, leave the rest. But this leads me to my second point, which is that a lot of great things are lost in translation. So as I was reading the book, it was talking about all of the different blocks that there are to listening and communication. And I'm gonna just list them briefly here. So some of the blocks to communicating or listening are that when we're listening to someone who's talking, we're trying to read their mind, or we're daydreaming, or we're already criticizing them. Whatever it is that's coming out of their mouth, we're already criticizing them. We're already thinking about how we're going to say or how we're going to respond. We might be trying to plan out giving unsolicited advice, or we are maybe selectively listening, so only listening to the parts that benefit us, or only listening to the parts that boost our egos. We might just be trying to one up the other person, like, I'm listening so that I can tell you how my situation is better or how my situation is worse, and just totally disregarding what you just said to me. And all of those are blocks to communication. All those are blocks to being able to effectively and actively listen to someone. And, that goes back to self-awareness, where if you are aware of yourself long enough and you're asking yourself these questions, you can listen to what's going on in your mind as someone else is listening. Like right now while I'm speaking, like, what are you thinking about? Like, whoever's watching this, like, are you listening to what I'm saying, or are you daydreaming, or are you listening to combat, or are you listening to talk about how your idea is better or how your opinion is better? Like, when you're listening, are you actually present and aware and engaged, or are you listening so that you can essentially just negate everything I just said? And also I liked how the book talked about emotions, because when it comes to listening, I had said this earlier, but sometimes we have to take our emotions out of things. And when you take your emotions out of things, you're able to talk and communicate in a way that is effectively, because the stronger your emotions are, the fewer chances you will utter your thoughts effectively. So, like, oftentimes people who are emotional, there's a lot at stake, they're feeling some type of way. They might say, if I'm upset, I might say something with a little bit more raw, my tone might be a little bit more harsh, and it might be harder for you to receive that. And that's the part where, some of us, we are direct communicators, but sometimes our directness can be so blunt, and it can be so harsh, and it could come off as like we are just the biggest bitchs in the world. Like, dang, like, you could have said that a different way, like. But, and it's like, the thing of it is that sometimes what we're saying is needed and it's important, but it's the way that we say it. It's how you say it, because especially if I don't know you, and you come way left, like, I'm going to take that in a way, and I'm most likely not going to receive it. But just not even me. I feel like the average person, if they don't know somebody, and somebody's talking to them with a certain tone and a certain type of demeanor, and even though the information might be good, it's like, you're not going to want to listen to that. You're not going to want to hear it, because the person didn't respect you enough to come in a way that you could receive it, or consider you enough to come at you in a way that you could receive it. So that's the part of the communication that's important too, is sometimes we have to maybe take a break, walk away, let our emotions kind of simmer before we say what we have to say, especially when our emotions are heightened. And that can go with when we're sad. That can go with when we're extremely happy. It could, like, emotions can go, it's like a roller coaster. They can be up, it could be down. But we just have to take a deep breath sometimes, walk away, and then say what we need to say. It's better to say it with a clear head, a level emotions, than to just say it in that situation. Now, sometimes, and I'm not saying this is like across the board. Whenever there's a situation, always be level-headed with it. Sometimes you do gotta go there. Sometimes, but not every time. And you have to be able to discern when to go there and when not. So, last takeaway here is that great communication begins with yourself. So I love how so far all of these books that I've been reading, they all touch on, I'm finding a common denominator here. All these books touch on the fact that you are the basis of what you want. You're the foundation. You can't have a great relationship. You can't have great communication skills. You can't have a great career if you don't first address you. You have to first address yourself. Address your communication style. And, are you an aggressive communicator? Are you a passionate communicator? Are you a direct communicator? Are you a passive aggressive communicator? Are you a passive communicator? Like, what is it about your communication style? And how can you strengthen it? How can you be more direct? How can you get what you want out of life? That's why, to me, communication is so important, is because essentially nobody's gonna be there to help you get what you want. A closed mouth doesn't get fed. You have to speak on your behalf. You have to be your own advocator. You have to be your own lawyer. You have to be your own doctor. You have to be your own therapist. You have to be your own everything, essentially. Everything starts with yourself. You are the foundation for your well-being in this world. And I really like that all these books that I've been reading, they all go back to self, like yourself. It's you are the number one reason why you're not communicating, or why you're not in a good relationship, or why you're the one. And that's where people have to let go of their egos, and like, they have to come to grips with, like, if this is the reality of your situation and you want better, you have to do something differently. You have to be something different. You have to try something different to get whatever it is that you want. So, with great communication starting with yourself, notice your thoughts. Learn how to really sit and, like, maybe while you're watching something or reading something, notice where your mind wanders and goes to. Which spaces it goes to. Are you thinking about what you have to do tomorrow? Are you thinking about a conversation that you had that maybe didn't play out so well? Like, what are you really thinking about? And become aware of the self-talk that you're having. So also, it's hard to be able to talk to other people positively or with a certain type of empathy if your self-talk is very negative. If the way that you communicate to yourself is very degrading, like, how do you talk to yourself? I gotta say this, because this is one of the things too that I hate, is that, sometimes girls will refer to women will refer to other women as bitches, and in a playful manner. And I've always had a problem with that, because all my friends, they know, don't call me a bitch, because I don't care if we playing. I don't care if it, just don't do it, because some people take it as like, oh, it's just this passive. It's like saying, what's up, bro? Like, or hey, bro, like, or hey, girl, like, but to me, it's like, no, because out of all the other words that you could have said, you didn't have to say bitch. Like, you could have said so many other words. There's so many words in the human language. So that's one thing personally that I've never liked, is that when another woman refers to another woman as a bitch. Like, I don't agree with it. I don't call my friends bitches, and my friends don't call me a bitch. So I think your words are important. Like, people, like I said, people just say things passively, but I think that words matter and they're important, because there's a subconscious thing to them. Like, subconsciously, if I say bitch, like, is degrading. No matter how what light we put it in, like even I'm the baddest bitch, I'm the da 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 da. Like I don't care what light you put the word bitch in. It's not. It still means the definition of it is not. In my opinion, it's not something that uplifts women. So, but yeah, you have to notice your thoughts, become aware of your self-talk, and be kind to yourself when you're talking to yourself. Talk to yourself. Don't say, "Oh, I'm so stupid for doing that." Like if you mess up or you make a mistake, "I'm so dumb." People do that all the time, right? I'm like, "Oh my God," like, and it's, I think we're so used to it. And it's so common that people don't even think twice about it. But I teach, and so like when I'm in school and I'm talking to these students, and like they're like, "Oh, they're making a mistake," and they're like, "Oh, I'm so dumb." I'm like, no, you're not. Like, don't say that. Don't say that, because if you say it, other people are listening, and they might agree and be like, "Yeah, you are stupid." And now you've unlocked the whole can of worms for the whole class to call you stupid, and it started with you. And you have to understand your communication style. Like I said, are you assertive? Are you aggressive? Are you passive aggressive? And, when you're communicating to others, are they assertive? Are they passive? Are they aggressive? Things of that nature. And fake it till you make it. Like if you're not a good communicator, just keep practicing. Fake it till you make it. It's going to work. And just dedicate time and attention and be aware with your communication. And there's one last thing that I wanted to say, because I felt like there's a couple of things. I felt like communication, what makes communication so special is because when in a world where sometimes you feel like no one understands you, or no one is listening, or no one's paying attention to you, there's things that you might encounter. So like music, or a movie, or a play, or something, and it reminds you, when you can resonate and relate to the main character of that play, or that story, or that song, it reminds you that someone somewhere understands you, whether or not it's in your immediate circle or someone that but someone out there exists, and they have that same story. And I think that's what's so special and what's so powerful about music. And that's why I love music so much, is because I can be communicating something through my songs, and someone listening to my music could feel that same way. And they might not have the words to articulate it. And sometimes, I don't feel like everybody is a master being able to pick the right words to talk about, to express how they feel. But that's the beauty in art and music, is because, there's an artist that exists that does have the right words, and they were able to communicate that heartbreak, or they were able to communicate that success, or that whatever the case may be. And it makes you feel seen. And like it goes back to this empathy thing. It makes you feel seen. It makes you feel heard. And that's why people are so gung-ho when it comes to supporting their favorite artists, is because like, I've never met this person, but yeah, I feel like this person knows me so well, because they can articulate everything that I'm going through, and they can express it, and they relate to that. So, although communication seems so simple, don't take it for granted. Don't take the opportunity to speak to someone else, to listen to someone else, to encourage or inspire someone else. Don't take that for granted. Don't take it light. Reading books is a form of communication for me, because I'm able to listen to what it is, or read whatever it is that an author maybe that existed 1920 something. I'm able to read what they experienced, and then I can tap into it. I can relate to it, because sometimes we don't have to go through the same experience as someone in order to be able to relate to them, because there's this thing called the human experience. And even though I might not have lost my job, I know what loss is like, or I've experienced it. Maybe I haven't necessarily lost my dog, but I know what grief is like. I know what love is like. We know what certain emotions feel like, and you can empathize with people with that, because you are human, and that's what's so beautiful about being human in this world. So, I'm gonna stop with my spiel here. I hope you guys really enjoyed this. I enjoyed it. I love this topic of communication. I really feel like it's a big topic. And next week we're gonna get into a new book, different book. So for anyone who wants to read this week's book, we're coming from Four Essential Keys to Effective Communication by Bento C. Leal the Third. He's a certified relationship skills trainer and best-selling author for anyone who is not familiar with his work. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Happy Sunday. Takeaways with Tay has been awesome as always, and I will see you guys later. Bye.